Wait, what's going on, Kevin? What are we doing here? Are we just doing a random live show?
I think so. Don't we have an
Um,
intro?
Something like that. It's been a while. When was the last time we did a culture clash?
1983? I don't know.
It feels along those lines. Yeah, no, we finally decided it was time to get around and doing one. I'm out of super busy, crazy work season. Kevin is a married man now, and there was a ring for those of you watching. We will be putting this out in a podcast format. But yeah, we figured it was time, and we got something really fun that we're going to do today. Kevin, but it's something we haven't done in a while. I mean, but we haven't done Culture Clash in a while. Are you feeling like you're in that Culture Clash groove, or do we still need to kind of get in there like the slot racing cars back in the day?
I'm a little rusty, but let's take some practice rounds just to get into it.
Okay, well, let's do it by talking about what we're going to be discussing on this impromptu Culture Clash live on Facebook, on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel, also on our Twitter feed. Kevin, we are going to be talking about playing a little game of catch up with pop culture because we've been out of the loop for a while. We've been watching things, we just haven't been talking about it on the podcast.
It's true. Yes, yeah.
So you're going to get us catching up on pop culture. And then we've got something very special planned because one of our favorite actors retired between this Culture Clash and the last time we did a Culture Clash, and we felt the only way to properly honor them was to bring back our timeline segment, Kevin. And do you know the actor who I'm referring to? If not, it's going to be a really weird show.
Was that? Let me see. Was it? I don't know. Danny Trejo? No.
I was thinking of some guy named Bruno.
Oh, I think it's Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I think it's Bruce Willis. Funny story. I went to a Fathom event last night, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But one of the things they advertised was the 25th anniversary of The Fifth Element. Then they're putting it in theaters for that weekend.
I think I was there for the 20th anniversary. I saw it in Georgia.
Yeah, so I was like, I might be actually interested in seeing that. But you know what, guys? Let's.
Do you mean the 25th anniversary of this? Is this what you're talking about?
That would be what I'm talking about.
I'm holding up a Fifth Element laser disc right here. There you go.
I thought it was a pizza pan.
No. Laser disc.
For those of you children who are not young enough to remember, it's a really big looking CD. But it has a movie on it. Anyway, guys, without further ado, we are back with the Culture Clash, and there's only one way to go about it. Let's do this thing.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Okay, now we're officially back, Kevin. I'm sorry.
I almost forgot what that intro sounded like.
I am sorry to all the viewers and listeners out there, but please also feel free to join us in the chat if you happen to stumble across this impromptu Culture Clash live show. Drop some thoughts on Bruce Willis. Drop some thoughts on some of the things we're going to be talking about here. We're going to have some fun today, Kevin. But let's talk about some of the things that have been happening in pop culture, because we have covered some of it here on the Fandom Podcast Network and our other shows. For instance, the MCU. We've talked Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Moon Knight, and Ms. Marvel, all on our True Believers podcast. And of course, on the Star Trek and Orville front, the Orville is finally back. So thank goodness for that. But we're talking all things Star Trek, whether it was Picard Season 2, the current run of Strange New Worlds, which is phenomenal, the return of the Orville now up to Episode 3. And of course, too, we have had our new partnership with the BQN network. So now you are finding all good things in Galaxy's class here on the Fandom Podcast Network, as well as the BQN, Kevin. That's been exciting.
Yes, that's Amy and Friends Network covering everything Star Trek, and we're sharing episodes with each other, which is great.
Yeah. And of course, too, over at What a Piece of Junk, they've been talking all things Obi-Wan Kenobi. But no. We're not going to let them have all the Kenobi fun. So, Kevin, it's time to do some covering Kenobi. So we had 5 episodes already. The series is almost done. It feels like it's flown by thanks to 2 episodes premiering the weekend of Star Wars Celebration and then one like 4 days later. But I got to ask you, my friend, what have been your thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi so far?
Hold on. All right, episode 5 has been released. We're getting spoilery, right?
Yeah, of course. Of course, the internet was spoiling it for me like 2 hours after it premiered. So
Yeah. Of course, jerks out there doing that. I have been thoroughly enjoying Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's really good Star Wars, and it has been a lot of fun. It looks great. I love the cast. I like the story they're going for, and it's great to see. In that last episode, it was great to see the flashback with Obi-Wan and Anakin, with Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, doing some pre-Order 66 sparring, which I thought was great. And I'm digging what's going on too with the third sister, and that scene where Obi-Wan gives himself up and saying, "You're not giving me to him. I'm bringing him to you," so to speak.
no, I've really enjoyed it. It's really great having Ewan back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I got to admit, though, Kevin, especially with episode 5, maybe it was just me, but Hayden just had kind of a funky look on his face. I don't know if it felt like maybe they threw a little de-aging program on him or something like that. Is it just me, or did you notice
I thought
that?
they didn't de-age him. I thought he just they were just shooting the scene with him current age, but because he's aged well, he doesn't look old. I don't know. I don't know. It didn't bother me.
Yeah. I do have one question for you, Kevin. Maybe you can answer it for me. What's the trick to survive being impaled by a lightsaber? Because it seems to be a common theme in Kenobi.
Yeah, I don't know. It's maybe well, it is a cauterizing wound if you think about it. So it's different from a blaster wound. I guess if you don't hit the heart, it's survivable. I guess I don't know.
That's just been one question with this, but no, I've really enjoyed what they've done with Kenobi. I think
it just real quick in Phantom Menace, though, when you saw Darth Maul going at it against Qui-Gon, looks like Darth Maul did the no look through the heart stab. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
But then he gets cut in half and he lives. So there you go. Whatever the script provides, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta say this, if nothing else, with Kenobi too, I think Deborah Chow has come out looking like a superstar with this series.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying her directing style and stuff, and I'm happy with the story this far too, and the writing. I really liked the Imperial officer girl. I'm forgetting her name.
Indira Varma was the actress.
Yeah, I really dug her. It was sad to see her go, but she went out like a champ, and I thought it was really cool. Yeah, and the previous episode when they go to the Imperial base and you see all of those Jedi or Force sensitive people all, frozen in, I don't know, people are calling it amber right now. So,
yeah, Indira Varma's character's name was Tala.
Tala, thank you, Tala.
But can I take a minute to talk about the person who is stealing this show for me, Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
Vivian Lira Blair as young Leia.
Yeah,
I love her in this. She is just outstanding in this. I think she's channeling some Carrie Fisher here.
She is.
I mean, she's got the attitude. She plays off of all of these amazing adult actors that are well established so well. That's what's even more amazing to me.
She's stealing her scene. She's a great little actress, and she's got that Leia spunk, which is important. And willing to mouth it back. Is this a staring contest?
But I think the thing that stands out for me the most out of Kenobi, Kevin, is the return of scary Darth Vader.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if it's really the return. It's really the pinnacle, I think. Wouldn't you say? Because we got a taste of that in the end of Rogue One, the next level, and now this has gone to like a really big level. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, this is when he's this is when he's really at his most angry and most fearsome, and it's great to see.
When he snapped the young man's neck in episode 3 with the Force, I was like, "Oh, this is a Vader we've never seen on screen before.
Yes,
Not
it
like
is.
this.
Yep.
Not like this." So, no, Kenobi has been a blast. Kevin, I do want to ask, since we're talking Star Wars real quick, one of the things that you did while we were away on break is you went to Star Wars Celebration this year.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm just curious here. I know you talked a little bit about it here and there, but what were your impressions of Celebration this year?
Well, I went to Celebration kind of not really. Like, I didn't sign up for any panels. I didn't sign up for any autographs. The only autograph I really wanted to try to get was Mr. Apollo Creed himself. Obviously, I'm forgetting his name right now.
Carl Weathers.
Thank you, Carl Weathers. Obviously a star of The Mandalorian, but his autograph information was saying he was only signing flats. He wasn't signing any figures, any pops, anything like that. And I wanted to sign a Raiders jersey, so I didn't even entertain that. And I didn't know if they were going to do the lame partition thing between people because of COVID stuff, And I didn't want to pay for a picture with that. Some people were doing it, some people were not, which was nice. I know that Ewan McGregor wasn't doing that, but I didn't sign up for any panels. I tried to get into the Mandalorian experience, but I didn't get that lottery thing, though. But the only thing I really had planned was the Monday before I went to the Scum and Villainy bar in Hollywood, run by my friend J.C. Reifenberg, and my friend and fellow 501st member Robert organized a 501st meetup, Imperial Officer meetup, where we had Dominic Pace show up. I played the Gecko, the bounty hunter. He's also been a guest on What a Piece of Junk. And they inducted 2 actors from The Mandalorian that had small bit parts as like Imperials into the 501st. I'm forgetting their names, a woman and a man. And then I had a photo shoot. With the 501st for both the Imperial officers, and then of course I did one with the Rebel Legion, and then I did one with the 501st. The what do you call it? The driver guys, the ACD guys.
Oh yeah,
Armored Cavalry Detachment. All the guys that drive all the cool Imperial vehicles. And then I did my Wilrow Hood run, which was a lot of fun. I did that as well. So, I just kind of did it loose and casual. Met up with Christy, by the way, Christy Morris. Her husband, Michael, he was feeling a little under the weather, so I didn't get a chance to hang out with him. He was resting in his hotel room. But it was nice to connect with a lot of my friends that I hadn't seen in a while. And it was a lot of fun. Went and saw a movie. We'll talk about that later. Went and saw Top Gun while I was down there and stuff. But it was nice. Didn't get a lot of swag, a couple pieces of art here and there and stuff like that. A lot of pins and badges and stuff like that. So, but it was nice.
If I'm looking just behind you, there is a pretty cool piece of swag there.
Yes. One thing I didn't mention that I did is Robert Greg Barker, who is the leader of our Imperial 501st Officers Corps. He organized a group of where we got to show up in costume because they had a special Star Wars night at Disneyland on the Friday night. And this was a ticket that sold out pretty quickly back when it was supposed to happen in 2020. And if you retain that ticket, you could keep it. You just had to pay an upcharge because they charged you more for it later. But for these special nights, normally you can't show up in costume when you go to Disneyland and stuff. You can't do that. But this one was a special event where they shut it down to regular people late afternoon, early evening, and then they had another ticket for the Star Wars night. And so we all showed up in costume, and of course we went to Batuu, Galaxy's Edge, of course, and had a great time in costume, and did the rides. And they had some exclusive items that they were selling there at Batuu, and one of them is this cool little thing right here, which is a Camtono that actually opens and works just like it did on the Mandalorian. And for those of you that don't know what a Camtono is, it is the thing that Willrow Hood is seen holding way back in Empire Strikes Back. It's an ice cream maker prop, but they actually turned this particular one into an actual working prop. For $50, they were selling this at Galaxy's Edge, and it has a 6-digit code here, which is pretty cool. And let me see if I can remember how to do this here. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it turns green, and then you turn it, boom, and the levers all pop out. If you're listening to this, check out the video. You can see how it works.
Dude, where's my Beskar? I gave it to you for safekeeping.
Oh yeah, it's been allocated for other important purposes, but yeah. But it's actually a little tiny working safe, basically. So it's got a little 6-digit code that you can program. And that's me closing the panels back up there. And then you lock it, and then it turns off. It's really cool. So, yeah.
That is one of the cooler props I've seen them make for.
And then in the Celebration store, they were selling a Camtono cooler bag, which I got as well. I had to get that, you know.
Yeah.
Being part of the Willrow Hood, certain things are a must when you're part of that group. And I bought a couple of T-shirts as well in the Celebration store. I went on the last day, and I was happy that they had this thing. So yeah,
that's very cool. So, well, you mentioned you went to see a movie while you were there. Plus, we've seen a few other things. So, Kevin, I'm feeling it a little bit. There's a lot of things we still need to talk about, but it's that time to buy it, stream it, or unsee it. Haven't heard that in a good while. So we have seen a few things here. We're not going to dive deep into everything here, but Kevin, I want to start with some things that have just been on the pop culture radar really big in the last few weeks and months. Stranger Things season 4. I know you've been kind of a mixed bag on Stranger Things. We were a huge fan of season 1. Season 2 didn't do much for you, but you liked what they did with season 3. Have you watched season 4 of Stranger Things yet?
Yeah, I'm only about 4 episodes in right now. I have not finished it. I know a lot of people have, and I actually haven't gotten spoiled, amazingly enough, which has been kind of nice. But I'm going to go back and finish it. I've just been catching up on other things first.
Okay, so the season isn't technically done. There's still a few more episodes that are going to come out July 1st.
Yeah, they're doing it in like a 2-part thing, right?
Yeah, and while this isn't the last season of Stranger Things, it feels like it's going to be kind of the last, maybe like full season, because I think the 5th season is only supposed to be like short episode, a shorter count of episodes, but longer episodes. But you're 4 episodes in, so you're starting to get a little bit of a feel for it. Are you enjoying season 4? What you've seen so far?
Yeah, I am. It kind of has a horror feel to it, I guess you could say. I'm curious to see what's happening with Hopper there in Russia, and as he's trying to escape was the last thing I was watching. And so, yeah, the kids are obviously older, but I'm digging the soundtrack as well. And apparently Kate Bush is popular than ever. And I remember that song when it first came out.
Exactly. That song hit like #1 in iTunes for a week after these episodes hit. So
God, I remember that song, and then I saw the video, and I was really disappointed in the video because it was just her dancing around and like not singing or performing. And then I Googled recently when the song was becoming popular again, some old live performances from, well, not necessarily live. Some of them were lip sync, because that's what you did like on Top of the Pops back in the 80s. You know, you would lip sync your performance, but at least you were like playing with a band or whatever. So it was kind of cool. But I remember that song when it first came out, and I liked it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed Stranger Things season 4. It was one of the first things I actually got to binge in a while, where I just started watching it and I just kept going and going. And it kind of, like season 1, kind of drew me back in. It's a little bit darker with a little bit more of the scary elements to it, and getting back to some of the things that make these characters so great. I love John Kearney, who plays Steve. He's great in this season, and you're going to see that as you get a little farther in, or Joe Kearney, I'm sorry, who plays Steve. You're going to get a little bit farther in, Kevin. You're going to see what I'm talking about. But I'm really excited. I cannot wait for these final episodes to come out, because I'm curious to see how they're going to wrap up this season. A lot of things are learned. A lot of things are still a mystery, and it's been a great ride for Stranger Things. I think they've really continued the rebound after what was to me, I'm with you, Kevin, it was a little bit lackluster on season 2, but season 3 and season 4 have been outstanding. Speaking of seasons that have got everybody's attention, there's things I just can't unsee, and that includes episodes of season 3 of The Boys, Kevin.
Yeah, the boys likes to cross the line and then step over it, and that's why we love it, because as violent and vulgar as it is, we absolutely love it. And it's taking an interesting turn this season. And it was also nice to know that after 3 episodes was in, because they dropped the first 3, and then it was nice to know that they got renewed for season 4. And there was a lot of the stars that were posting pictures with holding them 4 fingers up, saying, season 4 is coming. So that's nice.
Yeah. All I'm going to say about the first episode of season 3, Kevin, you talked about how they like to cross the line and then cross it back. They cross the line, they burn the line, they reset the line. Then it said, no, we're not far enough with the line, and put it like at the top of Mount Everest.
Yeah, there's just scenes you can't unsee, and no apologies. I love it.
Yeah, I was watching that scene with my roommate, and we had to actually pause after that scene because we were like, did we just watch what we just watched?
Did that happen? Did that really happen?
That's one of those things that's so super. But I love the show. Carl Urban is fantastic in it. I gotta be honest.
Hold on. I want to say hi to Adam. Our buddy Adam O'Brien, the host of Lethal Mullet, is in the chat. Good to see you, brother.
What's up, Mullet? We love you. I hope you're feeling better.
He actually just did one of my favorite Van Damme movies. He did a Double Impact, which where he plays twins in that one. It's a really good, really good movie. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the thing too with the boys too, Kevin, is that they're bringing in some new characters this season, and it's going to have a little bit of a supernatural flavor if you're a fan of Supernatural, because one of the 2 brothers is playing Soldier Boy in this season.
Jensen Ackles, is that his name?
Yeah, and people are raving about. People who've seen it are absolutely raving about his performance in this season. So
cool, very cool.
I'm very curious about that. Also, we got the return of a major franchise. Kind of also appears to be maybe a wrap up of this franchise for a while, Kevin, with Jurassic World Dominion. What I saw this over the weekend. I felt like it did a very good job of paying tribute to where it came from. I think there were some elements of it that were good, but I think there's the problem with the Jurassic World is they've gotten lazy in their writing. And this aspect for me was when your main villain isn't even dinosaurs, I have a problem.
Yeah. I wanted the dinosaurs to eventually like take over the world, and I guess I got my wish on that, but the way the story's being told is way too formulaic, and the movie was like 2.5 hours long, and there was just too many of our heroes, people that we're rooting for, just too many of them getting chased by dinosaurs all the time. There's like maybe 30 minutes of actual plot in between all the dinosaur running and screaming. And it was nice to see the original Jurassic World cast back and working together, and then meeting up with the Jurassic,
the original Jurassic Park cast meeting.
Yeah, Jurassic Park cast meeting up the Jurassic World cast was fun to see. But there was just too, I'm just getting tired of dinosaur chasing and running, and then always ending at the end of some gigantic Tyrannosaurus Rex or something as big as or bigger than a Tyrannosaurus Dominus, whatever Rexy Rex thing. And it's always at night with a fight in rain or something like that. And it's just like, I was looking at my watch waiting for it to end, and I guess they're going to try and live with and cohabitate with the dinosaurs in certain ways. But I'm fine with never seeing another one of these films again.
Yeah. See, I will say this, and this is the parts of the film I found the most interesting when they weren't in the the camp or whatever the preserve they set up to put the dinosaurs in. I thought when they were out in the real world, like in the beginning, when you see the Megalodon take out the crabbing ship, or when you in the very beginning, also when you see like Chris Pratt on the horse and they're trying to herd dinosaurs.
Yeah,
and things like I thought that part was interesting, but then you get into the more of the classic trope kind of thing. But I did actually like the dinosaur black market. I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was interesting because that was part of the plot, But
Yeah.
there were some unnecessary scenes of running away from dinosaurs, and it was just getting tiresome.
But Kevin, let's talk about the thing that seems to have at least dominated the pop culture landscape for the last few weeks. Number one in the box office, a movie everybody's been waiting for at least 2 years for after COVID delay. Top Gun Maverick finally dropped. Now, I did a CPT here on the Fandom Podcast Network with, of course, the amazing Amy Nelson, where we talked about the original Top Gun, but we also talked some about Top Gun Maverick. You wanted to be part of that, but unfortunately, a little side virus you picked up kind of knocked you out for that. You were losing your voice a little bit in a few things. So, Kevin,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the floor to put out your thoughts for Top Gun Maverick first and foremost.
That was the movie that I went to go see when I was at Star Wars Celebration. I just kind of wanted to get away from the crowds of Star Wars Celebration, so I went to go see Top Gun Maverick. And I went to an AMC theater, which I missed. There's not one that's close to me, and I miss AMC theaters. And they had a really cool metal popcorn bucket for the Top Gun, which is pretty cool. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't have high expectations going into it, but if I did, it would have, exceeded them. And it paid wonderful tribute to the original film, which was great. I loved that it, brought a new era of new fighter pilots into the new world and a new threat. But then, you get, and I just realized when I was watching or listening to your Top Gun podcast that Jennifer Connelly plays the character Penny that was mentioned in the original film. Completely missed that. When they mentioned that he did a flyover with the the general's daughter, and then as they're getting chastised by the superior officer. And then Goose goes, Penny? Yeah. So that was kind of cool that they did that connective tissue too. I recently watched the original Top Gun as well, just to get the feel for it all. But in your Top Gun Couch Potato Theater, and I was talking to you off mic about this, there's one thing in that film that really bugs me, is that when he throws Goose's dog tags away. And I know he has them again in the new film, and so those must have been either different ones or new ones or whatever. But I just don't like the symbolism that showed in that original film. That's my only problem with the original film. That's something you save, and maybe you give to his son or something later on. I didn't feel that was a way to show closure of Goose's death, just my personal opinion. But I loved seeing Val Kilmer return as the Iceman. And as we know, Val Kilmer has health issues with losing his voice due to throat cancer and stuff. It was really nice to see him return as his character, and that he and Maverick have maintained a really nice friendship over the years. What about you? What were your thoughts?
I absolutely love this film. I think it's right on par with the original. It hit all the good tribute notes, and it did it in a way that you knew it was kind of coming, but it was still really well done and was respectful. And I love the addition of Jennifer Connelly to the cast. I think she was great in her role. I think John Hamm was excellent in this film as well. One of my favorite scenes in this is when, after John Hamm's character has grounded Maverick, and yet he flies the mission. And basically he puts John Hamm's character right into rock and a hard place with what he's going to do with him. Of course, there's things about Top Gun that are a little predictable, but I do want to ask you a question.
Wait, Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah, Maverick, yes. Okay. I mean, but we just knew what notes they were going to hit, but they did it in a way that made it feel great and enjoyable. But I do have one picky nit with you for Top Gun Maverick, Kevin. I want to see if you agree with me. At the end of the film, when Rooster and Maverick steal the F-14, it feels like they do that just a little bit too easy. You would think there'd be a little more troops on the ground and things like that.
That place got bombed pretty well with the missiles that took over, so there was a lot of confusion, and there probably would have been a lot more carnage there as well. And so I was thinking about that at the time. It wasn't enough to take me out of it, though. I mean,
no, it didn't.
you know,
It took me out.
as you learn from movies and TVs in real life that if you want to get from, if you don't want to get caught from, you kind of lose yourself in the confusion and that. But I see why you thought that, though, definitely.
Yeah. So now, Kevin, I got to ask you, we've hit all the big stuff. Is there anything, one or two things you want to throw out real quick that we haven't mentioned, that something that might have grabbed your attention in our off time with Culture Clash?
Well, I got married to Aaron. We had a Vegas wedding. That was a lot of fun. Did that.
Yeah, hey, it's the little things.
It went on we put it on YouTube. You can search for it. It's also on my Facebook page pinned. About 15-minute ceremony. It was a lot of fun. Did that. That was cool. She's back in Australia right now, though, but we're going to see each other in a few months. So that was a lot of fun. I've been enjoying a show on Hulu called Pistol. It's about 6-7 episodes about the Sex Pistols, the punk band from the 70s in the UK, and it's based on the guitarist's book. And it's got a young Maisie Williams as one of the punk friends in there, so that's pretty cool. And so if you're into music biops, it's pretty cool. So, but also the G.I. Joe animated movie is having an anniversary showing coming up in the next week or two. I think I'm gonna try and get to that if I can. It's playing in select theaters. Did you have one playing around you? Were you looking at maybe entertaining that?
I'm entertaining the thought. It depends on some scheduling things, but yeah. In fact, I just did a Fathom event last night, which they advertised the G.I. Joe movie because it's a Fathom event. One of the most popular anime series of all time has been stuck in a litigation hell for years, and that is Macross. Now we have Robotech over here, which is Harmony Gold, and but there was a big licensing issue with Macross. Well, that finally cleared up in the last about year, and now Macross shows can come over to the US finally, the original versions. Well, one of the series was a show that came out in the late 2000s, early 2010, ran through 11, was called Macross Frontier. And it was a very popular show. Well, Macross is famous for its music. It had great music in it. Well, they did a couple of movies as well. And the first movie is aired last night as a Fathom event. They're doing the second film in a couple of weeks. So I went to go see that because this is my first ever chance to see anything Macross on a movie theater size screen.
How is this different from the Macross saga, the 26 episode Macross saga?
So the Macross saga, which was originally called Super Dimensional Fortress Macross, because Robotech was three different Japanese animation shows that were similar in styles, so they were able to put them together. So the first part is Super Dimensional Fortress Macross. In this timeline, this Macross Frontier takes place about 50 years in the future from where the events of the original Macross series. So there's mentions of
so where does it sit in with the Master series and Robotech: The Next Generation? 50 years after all that?
That's where the separation hits. In the original Robotech was three different shows: Robotech Macross, Robotech Masters, which was actually in Japan called Super Dimensional Cavalry. And then there was Robotech: The New Generation, which was called Genesis Climber Mospeda. And what happened when they made Robotech is they took those three shows and kind of found a way to puzzle piece them together. So if you're going by Macross, the split when Master starts is where the split between Robotech happens and the original Japanese storyline happens.
I'm confused. I'm just going to stick with the original series that I have on Blu-ray and DVD.
There you go. Another animated thing I actually want to throw out too that I watched is a Return to Pacific Rim, Kevin. There's a Netflix show, Pacific Rim: The Black, and its second season came out. Was a big fan of the first season. I just got done watching the second season. I was very impressed with it. And I just want to mention a couple quick things that are coming out this week, I believe. There's an anime on Netflix called Spriggan. If you're a fan of Akira, you're going to want to watch that anime. And two, Chris Hemsworth has a new movie, a Netflix.
Well, hold on. Why, if you're a fan of Akira, want to watch this? Is it related to Akira?
No, it's by the original creator of Akira, so it's in that animation style and his storytelling style.
Okay.
The premise of it is the main character is a member of an organization who's out to protect artifacts, and their agents are called Spriggan. So It's actually a pretty fun action show. But also, Chris Hemsworth has a new Netflix original movie that's coming out called Spiderhead. That's getting a lot of talk. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for this or heard about this, Kevin. The basis of this show is Hemsworth plays some kind of doctor who's also in charge of this futuristic prison, but they're using experimental drugs on the inmates. So, of course, things start going wrong. Some things happen. It looks very intriguing. So I wanted to get that out there. But that kind of,
I think in response to our Jurassic Park Dominion, Adam O'Brien said, watch Iron Sky 2 instead. And I said, laugh out loud. Why? He says, dinosaurs versus the bad guys. He also said he finished watching Moon Knight. Average, got to say, Ethan Hawke knocks it out of the park. And he also said that Macross Zero is playing here now in Australia.
Yeah, no, Macross Zero is another great series. You'd actually like that one, Kevin, because it's the story of Roy Fokker and how he became part of the whole Macross Robotech thing.
Prior to the events in the Macross saga?
Yeah, prior to those events.
Gotcha.
So, that's going to kind of wrap up of what our look back is, though. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, it's time to do a little timeline because we're going to celebrate the career of Bruce Willis. But first, here is what is happening on the Fandom Podcast Network.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We'd like to continue to feed your ears by inviting you to listen to these other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. It starts with our flagship show, Culture Clash, discussing the latest in entertainment pop culture. Bloody Kings, Immortals Take Notice, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theaters, where we celebrate our favorite movies. Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback podcast discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie and TV pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Union Federation, our Star Trek and Orville show. Hair Metal, the 80s and early 90s rock metal podcast. Type 40, our show covering the time-traveling Doctor Who universe with host Dan Hadley. Lethal Mullet, an 80s and 90s action film podcast with host Adam P. O'Brien. Also check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast with hosts Scott, Derek, and Nathan. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast, a deep dive into the final frontier with host Mark Newbold and Adam P. O'Brien. And check out our newest shows, The Fandom Show, our monthly Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube exclusive show about the month's hottest topics in fandom, and the FPN True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the related Marvel television and streaming MCU universe, including the connections to the original Marvel comics. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on several platforms. Please subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel to receive notifications of new podcast episodes and live events. You can enjoy all of the Fandom Podcast Network audio podcasts on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. The Fandom Podcast Network is on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast and iTunes. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can also find the Fandom Podcast Network on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network and on Twitter at FanPod Network. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Okay, well, now that we've got everybody caught up on the pulse of pop culture, Kevin, it's time. It's time to get back on the timeline. We are here to talk about probably one of the most legendary actors of our time, Kevin, Bruce Willis. Yeah, you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, definitely. Because for us Gen Xers, he made his mark while we were young and teenagers and stuff like that. So and he's done a lot of prolific films.
Yeah, no, he has, and unfortunately, due to an illness, he had to retire from acting this year, Kevin, and that kind of prompted us to have to want to do this timeline. And as I was doing the notes for this, I found it very interesting in the aspect of just how much his career spans. We're talking basically almost 4 decades of films. So what we're going to do on this timeline is kind of break it up into time frames and kind of hitch each decade and talk a little bit about that. But Kevin, it all starts at the beginning for him. His first movie was in 1980, The First Deadly Sin.
Yes, I was looking that up, seeing who was in that, and it stars Frank Sinatra and Faye Dunaway. And it's a police inspector nearing retirement tracks a serial killer who is terrorizing New York. 1980.
Yeah, we're breaking in with some big names, but come on. I think for a lot of us, the first time we actually saw Bruce Willis, it goes back to Miami Vice, Kevin, one of your favorites.
I know. I remember his character, and and then I remember when, of course, he got more famous later. And rewatching the episodes, I was just like, "Oh, there he is." That's where he kind of was making his name right there. So yeah,
he was playing Tony Amato on Miami Vice, and in 1985, he hits it with David Addison Jr. on Moonlighting.
Yep.
Following up, it was interesting. 1986, he got some notoriety for doing some Seagram's ads, including one with Sharon Stone. Do you remember those ads, Kevin?
I remember his ads. I can't remember the one with Sharon Stone just because at the time I didn't know who she was, and I haven't watched these ads since.
No, I can get that, but we have to have a little fun with Bruce too, and this is an early career decision that. I don't know, Kevin. This people, some might question. He did a TV movie, The Return of Bruno, which, and more importantly, gave us. Kevin, I have a question. Do you respect yourself?
I do respect myself. I wonder if Bruce Willis respects himself after doing that album. He had some pull, though. He was being a rock star on Moonlighting, which is one of the most popular television series at the time. And he's like, you know what? I want to sing and do an album. Don Johnson did it. Why can't I?
Exactly. I do remember seeing the video for this on MTV at least once.
I saw it more than once. I remember it well.
Yeah. 1987, though, things start getting interesting. He does Blind Date with then super on fire Kim Basinger. Kim Basinger was the it girl in Hollywood about this time.
Yep, directed by Blake Edwards, and of course also co-starring John Larroquette and William Daniels.
So, this is a classic 80s comedy for me, Kevin. I love Blind Date.
I remember seeing that in the theater because I was such a big fan of him from Moonlighting.
Yeah. Of course, then it all changes in 1988, Kevin, as we're introduced to John McClane in Die Hard. Huge, major hit, spawned off many sequels, which we will talk about, but Die Hard changed everything for Bruce. I think it's fair to say.
It did, and it also did for action films as well. And it's a staple, and it's also a staple movie for the holidays, obviously. And it is probably, when it comes to action films, it's right up there at the top.
Yeah, I would agree. And then in 1989, Moonlighting ends, and he does the voice of the baby in Look Who's Talking. Were you a Look Who's Talking fan?
I was for a hot minute. I don't entertain those movies anymore. They kind of lost the novelty, I guess, after a while. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see that. But then things get interesting in the 90s. Let's run down some of his movies in the 90s. He opened up with a little sequel-itis as he did both Die Hard 2 and Look Who's Talking 2. One of the more controversial bomb films in Hollywood history, The Bonfire of the Vanities.
Did you say Bond? Would you say
Bonfire of the Vanities? Bomb. B-O-M-B.
Oh, Bomb. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I don't even remember that movie. I think I saw it, but I just blocked it.
It was a snooze fest. Then came Mortal Thoughts, and of course Hudson Hawk, which we'll get to that in a little bit because that inspired some interesting conversation amongst some people affiliated with the Fandom Podcast Network. He does The Last Boy Scout and Billy Bathgate. He does Death Becomes Her, a very interesting film. There, Kevin's holding it up on your screen, the Blu-ray double feature. He does Striking Distance. He does Pulp Fiction, Color of Night, Die Hard with a Vengeance, 12 Monkeys.
Forgot
North, yes. A Last Man Standing, had a voice role in Beavis and Butthead Do America. He's also in The Fifth Element, does a absolutely memorable guest spot on the TV show Mad About You, the movie The Jackal, Mercury Rising, Armageddon, The Siege, and wrapped up in the 1990s with The Sixth Sense. Kevin, this is a powerhouse decade for Bruce Willis.
Yeah, there's a few misses there, but the 90s were good to him, definitely.
So I want to ask you, since we're talking about the '90s, what's your standout for him of the '90s? Give me the standout movie and the standout performance for him in the '90s.
My opinion on this has changed over the years. I would probably have to go with The Fifth Element as his standout. But for me, right behind that is The Last Boy Scout. The flawed character that he plays in that is just phenomenal. But I think the Fifth Element is just phenomenal. Visually, it was great. Action, funny, very interesting story, great cast, just amazing. What about you?
Yeah, I'm with you on The Fifth Element. It's one of my favorite films, and he is phenomenal in it. Obviously, I'm a big fan of The Last Boy Scout too. I think Die Hard 2 is a little bit underrated personally. I think people give that a little bit more of a hard time than they should. Obviously, Pulp Fiction was huge for him in this, and I'm always going to have a warm spot for Armageddon. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I just
Armageddon. Yep.
But things get interesting in from 2000 to 2009. He gives us a little bit of his comedy side with The Whole Nine Yards.
Love that film.
One of Kevin's favorite things, he plays Paul Stevens on Friends.
Yes, he had a great run on Friends.
Starts something very interesting with M. Night Shyamalan with the film Unbreakable. It took a long time for that to pay off, but it tied into things. He did a movie called Bandits, Hearts War, Tears of the Sun, the sequel to The Whole Nine Yards, The Whole 10 Yards. He was in Ocean's 12, Hostage, Sin City. He had a guest appearance that was memorable on That 70s Show, Alpha Dog, Lucky Number 11, 16 Blocks, Planet Terror, Perfect Stranger, Live Free or Die Hard, and The Surrogates.
What was the character that he did on 70 Show? I can't remember that.
I can't remember either. I'm blanking on it because it's been a long time since I've watched any episodes of That 70 Show.
Adam's in the chat, by the way. Was he in Loaded Weapon 1? Did he have a cameo?
I don't remember. He might have had a guest appearance in Loaded Weapon 1. Now that I think about it, kind of a comedy,
probably a little a quick little thing. Yeah.
So what stands out for you for this decade, Kevin?
When I look at his movies here, I'm gonna have to go with The Whole Nine Yards. He was very funny in that, and also Unbreakable. Those two stand out for me for different reasons. But he was hilarious on Friends. As the father of the young college girl that Ross was dating, and then he ended up having a little relationship with Rachel's, Jennifer Aniston's character. Those are the ones that stand out for me for the 2000 through 2009.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The Whole Nine Yards is I love him in that. Unbreakable is a film I've always loved. It's one of my favorite M. Night Shyamalan films. I got a soft spot for Sin City. I love Sin City because I think that was a great, well done Frank Miller film.
Real quick, Adam jumps in and he says that there's a new Megaforce box set, so I got to check this out. But he said, "Last Man Standing, yo, bestest Bruce." I'm going to come back around to that. And of course, The Last Boy Scout as well. Both films that I really like. Yeah. And he said he was playing John McClane in Loaded Weapon 1. It's been such a long time since I've seen that one. I remember enjoying that one, though.
Yeah. I got to just give a shout out to Live Free or Die Hard because the chemistry between him and Sam Jackson in that movie was phenomenal.
No. That was the third one in the 90s.
That's right. Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. That's actually my favorite Die Hard movie. The third
Die Hard with a Vengeance?
Yeah.
No, I did like Live Free or Die Hard in because Timothy Olyphant was the villain in that.
Yes. Yeah.
And I thought there were some great lines in that. And then finally, his basically his final decade of acting, 2010 to 2019. We have Cop Out, The Expendables, Red, Setup, Catch 44, The Cold Light of Day, Moonrise Kingdom, Expendables 2, Looper, Fire with Fire, A Good Day to Die Hard, G.I. Joe Retaliation, Red 2, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, Vice, Extraction, Marauders, Split, which was tied. He made appearance at the end of that, tying things into what would become a film later. Once Upon a Time in Venice, First Kill, Acts of Violence, the Death Wish remake, Glass, which was the true sequel to Unbreakable.
This was the trilogy that was the split / Unbreakable Glass trilogy, the M. Night trilogy there.
Yeah. Did a voice in the Lego movie too, and Kevin had a great voice appearance in the Orville that was very entertaining.
Yeah.
And it was shortly after this that Bruce really started doing like a bunch of direct to DVD or streaming movies that led up to his retirement in March 30th, 2022 due to aphasia. There's a lot of talk that people were starting to take advantage of his illness, and he was signing up for things he had really no idea that we're talking about. And we're not going to go into that because we want to remember Bruce at the top of his game. But Kevin, I want to ask you, from 2010 to 2019, what are your standouts here?
I really enjoyed the Red movies. Those were a lot of fun. Him and John Malkovich were hilarious together. And I also enjoyed Looper. I thought Looper was a good one, but there's a guilty side of me that loves him as Joe in G.I. Joe Retaliation, which in my opinion is the best G.I. Joe movie.
That's not even a question there. I'm with you.
By the way, I did like his Death Wish remake. A lot of people didn't, but I did.
Looper is a phenomenal film, and he's amazing in it. Obviously, he's fun in the Expendables. I loved Red. Red was a blast. So, I just want to get the Wayback Machine on a couple of fun pieces of trivia here, because you can't mention Bruce Willis without mentioning Demi Moore. One of the most power couples there for a good while in Hollywood. They actually met in 1987 and split in 1998, having 3 children, Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah. He actually won an Emmy for his work on Friends in 2000, Kevin.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he didn't, I was going to give him one.
Interesting note. I had forgotten about this too. He had a great friendship with David Letterman and Phil, and was on several times. But he actually, in 2003, when David Letterman fell ill, he actually filled in as host when he was supposed to be on as a guest for David Letterman.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know if I ever saw that.
So, and I found this interesting. Films featuring Willis have grossed between $2.64 billion and $3.505 billion at the North American box office, making him in 2010 the highest grossing actor in a leading role and 12th highest, including supporting roles. He is a 2-time Emmy Award winner, a Golden Globe Award winner, and has been nominated for Saturn Awards 4 times. I know you're a big Saturday Night fan too, Kevin. He actually hosted in 2013 with Katy Perry as the musical guest.
I do remember that, actually. Yeah, he's good.
So that's kind of Bruce's career there, Kevin. It's a phenomenal career, but it's time to ask the big questions about Bruce Willis. And the first one, we have his breakout role, your personal favorite Bruce film, most underrated role, and role he should have won an Oscar for. Now,
or just an acting award for. That's I rephrased it when I put the post out on social media. I said, which Bruce performance would you give him an acting award for? Like it could be an Emmy if he did a television thing, or whatever. So
but you got some social media takes on this too, Kevin.
Yes. Buddy Norman, he said Blind Date gets woefully overlooked, and he's very funny, and I actually have it playing right now in the background because it's been a while since I've seen it. And Cat Cedar said, personally, I think most people will pick Die Hard or Pulp Fiction as one of his best, but honestly, I liked Hudson Hawk. It was such a fun movie. Lee Fillingsness, my co-host of Bloody Kings, Highlander podcast, says, breakout role, Moonlighting. Favorite role, Hudson Hawk. Fight me, I dare you. Underrated at Hudson Hawk. I'm waiting, Tinkerbell. Acting award, guess. I don't know if he said. Anyway, I'll give some honorable mentions to Tears of the Sun, Die Hard 1 Only, Planet Terror, Expendables, and Fifth Element. And then Lacey Adderhold said breakout role, Moonlighting. Favorite role, Hudson Hawk. Underrated role, Hudson Hawk. Acting award. Action doesn't usually get the awards, and I'm not one for too much for drama, so I'm going to go with Hudson Hawk again. And Alex Autry said breakout role, Moonlighting. Favorite role, Die Hard. Underrated role, Looper or Lucky Number 11. Acting award, Sin City. An old man dies, a little girl lives. Fair trade. And then I said I need to revisit Hudson Hawk, and I actually just finished watching it earlier today, and I'll talk about that in a moment. My friend Todd said, well, moonlighting for sure, but Die Hard made him an action star he became. I love Unbreakable and have an unknown love for Color of Night, and I would watch 12 Monkeys anytime. He and Pitt are great in that. Alex replied saying 12 Monkeys is one of those movies you either love or hate. I thought it was brilliant, but it isn't one I can watch a lot, but that is just me. I just really need to sit down with Unbreakable. It's oddly one I have not seen. So there we go for the social media responses there. Thank you guys for participating in that. Interesting stuff. Had a little Hudson Hawk run there, Kyle.
I was going to say, I've never thought I'd ever be on a podcast that would get Hudson Hawk bombed.
Yes. So I decided to watch it. And I'll be honest with you, Kyle. I have not watched it since I originally saw it in the theater. And I have it on DVD here. I bought it for like $1 or $2 at a thrift store a while ago because I knew I kind of wanted to rewatch it just because I wanted to remember why I haven't gone back and rewatched it. And by the way, it's streaming on Tubi. I actually watched it on Tubi. And now I know why I haven't revisited. I'm sorry, but that is not a good movie. It's just a little too silly. I get why it's quirky and people like it. I was reading up on it, and apparently while he was doing some press for 12 Monkeys about time travel, he was saying that at the time of that press tour, he wished he can go back in time and not do that film. And he also is credited in the screen role because it was in the screenwriting because he actually contributed to the story. And apparently there was a lot of ad-libbing and script changes on the set because he was coming up with ideas on the spot. But I'm sorry, I am not a proponent for Hudson Hawk.
It's been a long time since I watched that film too. What I remember was it felt like the story was just jumping all over the place and you couldn't keep track of what the heck was going on.
It was, and there was just some annoying characters in it. Sandra Bernhardt, oh God,
yeah, I'm not a fan.
And some of the thugs in it were just silly, and it was just a little too over the top with kind of like a serious plot overtone. I think that if he had taken the role a little more seriously, and they actually had villains that were a little more seriously played, of him being this master thief and whatever it is, cat burglar, I think. Because they shot it over different countries, which visually it made it look cool. It was just too much of a sparse type of thing, I guess. And I think it cost $65 million to make, and it only made like $17 million.
I will say there's one thing I remember I did like in Hudson Hawk. It was the fact that they would do their thieving to music, and they had their heist time to different songs.
There was a couple of fun moments with him and co-star Danny Aiello that was entertaining, but it just got too silly at the end, especially with the darts and people being paralyzed, and it didn't do it for me. I'm sorry, I'm not a Hudson Hawk guy.
Yeah. So Kevin, before we give our answers to the 4 big questions, there is one other question I want to hit with you on it, and what do you? Well, a couple of things. What do you consider his most iconic role? Because he's done a lot. Is it John McClane? Is it hands down, or do you think there's something else that could knock out John McClane as his most iconic role?
That's not a question we asked of the 4 questions to social media, so I guess that's a good one to go. I mean, obviously John McClane, he's done 5 of those films, and his first film, Die Hard, set the trend for action movies. I mean, I would have to say that. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's John McClane without question. I think there's a few things that he's also pretty well remembered for. I think Corbin Dallas is up there, but I just think John McClane is just, if you say Bruce Willis, everybody immediately goes to Die Hard and John McClane, and I think it's without a doubt his most iconic role there. So I just wanted to throw that out because I was curious. It's a pretty straightforward answer, but I was just kind of curious if you had anything in the back of your head that could have swayed you a little bit on John McClane.
I mean, it has to be John McClane. I mean, you could say Corbin Dallas, but I mean, he didn't make 5 of those. I wish he would have made a sequel to that, but he's John McClane,
Yeah. So, well, let's hit our answers for the big questions then, Kevin. I'll start with you on the breakout role for Bruce Willis.
Definitely Moonlighting. I was watching Moonlighting from day one. It was something that both me and my dad, my mom, were glued to the television up until they finally got together with Mr. Pesto and all the other quirky people they had on there. It was such a fun caper detective TV series, and we watched it till it jumped the shark and ended.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's Moonlighting put him on the map. I think obviously Die Hard and John McClane in '88 put him in that superstar level into that next stratosphere. But without Moonlighting, we don't have him. Period.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's Moonlighting. Your personal favorite Bruce Willis film?
This was a tough one because it was going between two of them. But I'm gonna. So it's easy to say for me, The Fifth Element, but I got to tell you, recently, because I've watched them both, I think that The Last Boy Scout has become my personal favorite Bruce movie because of the character that he plays, a damaged, broken, ex. Secret Service guy that now has to, sleep in his car at times and become a private detective, and with a messed up, family life, and this film is really underrated as an action film, and his character is just it's I'm not used to seeing. It was different than a John McClane. It was a total anti-hero, and it was a Bruce Willis movie that when you go back and watch all of his other roles, you kind of feel he doesn't want to live, but he's just doing it anyway. And it just had some great action scenes in it and some great quotes as well. So right now it's the Last Boy Scout.
Yeah, The Last Boy Scout's high up there for me. I think I still have to go The Fifth Element. For me personally, I love that movie. I think he's great as Corbin Dallas. Obviously, John McClane is up there. It's The Fifth Element. There's a lot of films I really like him in too, but for me personally, you got to go Fifth Element for me. But it's quite the career, and so it's not an easy call. And there's a lot of stuff that's right there.
Yeah, to me, it's like Last Boy Scout and Fifth Element when it comes to favorite role. Those two right there. I have to mention them together.
Yeah.
But after recently watching them both, they're both great. But there's just something about Last Boy Scout I can just keep watching and watching and watching.
Yeah, and I gotta say too, I love him in The Whole Nine Yards. That's
an
honorable mention. So
definitely.
So what do you think is his most underrated role, Mr. Reitzel?
To me, there was two that were coming out, and that was The Last Man Standing, the 1930s era flick, shoot 'em up, and he gets the crap beat out of him. And he's really good at getting beat up, period, in films, which he deserves an award just for that. Just really getting the crap beat out of him and showing that it hurts. And I think when it comes to him getting beat up in films, that one is his pinnacle when you see it. And it's got a great soundtrack by Ry Cooder. That one and Unbreakable as well.
Yeah, Unbreakable is up there for me, but I think the one for me that where he doesn't maybe get enough love for is actually Alex Autry brought it up, a Looper. I really think he kind of gets lost in the mix in Looper because Looper is just such a mind-blowing film, and I think he is very good in that. So yeah, another one I like in him too is 16 Blocks.
Yeah, that's right. He was like, he's got the funky mustache on.
Yeah,
and he's up against corrupt cops that want to kill his witness. Right. Yeah. That was a good one. That was a really good one.
Yeah. So, Kevin, lastly of our big questions, the role Bruce Willis should have won an award for, I'm going to throw it out as an Oscar since he has won an Emmy, he won a Golden Globe, he's won some awards.
What did he win for Golden Globe?
I'm not sure what he won the Golden Globe for, but I know it might have been Sixth Sense.
I gotta look it up.
He won for the guest actor for his comedy work on Friends. He won 2 Emmys, and he's like I said, he had been nominated for a Saturn Award 4 times.
Okay. Yeah, he got a actor, music, comedy. Yeah, I'm not. These are all like 87 through 90 that I'm seeing here. Yeah. He's never actually been nominated for an Oscar. Say here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, he's So let's see. The Golden Globe, he won it for Moonlighting.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's a TV acting award, which makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
I have to throw this out in his awards too. We were talking about things. He won a couple of Golden Raspberries. He won for Hudson Hawk. He won for Armageddon. And this actually makes me happy. He won a Golden Raspberry in 2022 for the movie Cosmic Sin, which was after his illness had advanced. The Golden Raspberries rescinded the award.
Yeah, it was also, there's a category of like a straight to video thing that was named after him, and then they took that away too, I think, didn't they? When they found out what had happened. So yeah, that was cool that they did that. So are you and I on the same boat about what he should have won an Oscar for?
I think there's 2 things he should have won an Oscar for. I think he should have won an Oscar for Sixth Sense.
I agree with you. That's my pick.
And I think he could have won an Oscar for supporting in Pulp Fiction.
Oh, totally. Yeah. That's a good one. I would have given to him for Sixth Sense because that was a great role, and he was just really, really good in that. Definitely, that's definitely a good one. Any other honorable mentions for possible acting awards or such? Because he's done a lot.
Yeah, he has done a lot. Tears of the Sun, was a pretty powerful film for him. He's bound. The thing with Bruce is he's done a lot of great films, but again, like Lacey said too, they're the kind of films that don't usually hit up the Oscar fields.
What was your take? Where do you stand on 12 Monkeys? It's a decisive film.
It took me a couple of watches before I think it clicked with me. And I like it, but it's not one of the. I'm one of those people I can't revisit it a whole lot. But it's an amazing performance by him because it's such a complex character and script.
I was invited to a pre-screening of that for audience reaction quiz, like afterwards, and I didn't know what I was getting invited to because that's the way it works. And then it was. I think the ending might have changed or whatever.
Yeah.
And I did not like it in that screening, and I ripped a new one in my comments. And I don't think I ever went back and finished the film to watch it when it finally came out. It kind of that kind of spoiled me to not wanting to actually see if they fixed it or made it better. I might have tried to rewatch it, and I can't remember. But yeah.
No, I'm a fan of his 2 Sin City films. I love those films in general. I love the look of them, and I thought he was great in them. So, yeah, I'm good there. Kevin, before we wrap up the timeline, is Bruce Willis? I said it before. Is he one of the top 5 seminal actors of the last 40 years?
Definitely. I mean, well, when you say 5, it's tough to say because you got to put in. There's a lot of people you can put in there with Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington, Kate Blanchett, there's a lot in there. I don't know. Definitely top 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something I'd have to kind of think about. I think the best actor has been Denzel Washington.
I would tend to agree with you. There for both
Charlize Theron, great actress as well, won an Oscar as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to go with Oscar winners first, right? And look at that, look at their thing, and kind of go there. But definitely top 10. His career is prolific. He's got a lot of rewatchable films, which I judge films on.
Yeah.
And there's several of his films that for me are not rewatchable, but there's more rewatchable than not. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think he affected Hollywood in a great way, not only with his films, but his superstar status. He was part of that Planet Hollywood group with Schwarzenegger. I think was it Stallone and
Adam commented on the comments saying, "Blasphemy, Kyle, 12 Monkeys is awesome. Come on." Like I said, a lot of people love that film. I don't know. That was a Terry Gilliam film, right?
Yeah, so it gets a little weird there, but
yeah, Terry Gilliam is hit or miss for me in his directing style. So
yeah. Well, that wraps up the timeline. Before we get out of here, though, Kevin, something we started doing right before we kind of took our little break there because of real life events happening was we were starting to drop the orbital bomb hot takes. Because the only way to drop it from orbit, it's the only way to be sure. I have one, Kevin, because it's something I've noticed in a trend here that's been happening with films, and I want to talk about franchise films because we have had.
Hold on, don't you have a sound tape for this or something like that?
Yeah. Once I say what I'm gonna, what I'm gonna say.
All right.
Franchise films. It's been a very interesting period for franchise films, and I think we're in this period where, Kevin, we've talked about this because of certain other major tentpole franchises, but we have a lot of franchises that are digging into their past. And I think it's a very tight rope that they're walking. But I think there is a few franchises have really paid true respect to their history and where they came from. And we talked a little bit about that earlier with both Top Gun and with Jurassic World Dominion. I also think Ghostbusters Afterlife did a very good job of that.
That's what I was thinking when you just brought the topic, yeah.
I think, though, what we have to be very careful of is franchise fatigue. Because as we dip into these old franchises, I don't want to take away the magic that those originals had, per se. And it's a trend I'm finding in Hollywood where we tend to dip into what's already existing. We're not coming up with new IP, new ideas. And I love, like, I know there's another Ghostbusters film coming. They've announced that the name of the project right now, the secret name of it is Ghostbusters Firehouse, because they're going back to New York with that film. But Kevin, I'm really worried we're getting to a point where are we going to oversaturate these beloved franchises?
Is there something out there that makes you feel that they have?
Well, we look at what's really kind of happened with Jurassic World and Jurassic Park. I think they kind of oversaturated that. We've had conversations about Marvel fatigue. We've had some conversations, even a little bit about Star Wars fatigue and just how the fandoms are. I think it's time for Hollywood to start finding some original IP again. Give us, and the last real original IP I can think of was John Wick. Can you think of anything since John Wick that's really been original that stood out?
I see where you're going with, yeah.
So my hot take is find more original IP, Hollywood. Come on now. I just had to get that out of my system. I feel better now.
You should have done that before in the introduction of it.
Oh, well, but I can just do this.
Behind me saying, no, that's Roxy the Rancor. So there you go.
There we go.
Yeah, I see where you're going at. I feel that the sequel trilogy for Star Wars dropped the ball when it came to paying tribute to the originals. I thought that Jurassic Park, with the Jurassic World stuff, they've kind of done. They've gone in a direction that I think kind of needed to go. I just thought that the storytelling was a little too formulaic for me. Ghostbusters was great, and of course, Cobra Kai has been awesome. TV series that's paying awesome respect to the original films, not just the first one, but all of them, which has been great. I would like to see more interesting stuff. I got to tell you, there's a series that just dropped on Hulu that I want to see called The Old Man.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that looks interesting.
with Jeff
Jeff
Bridges in it, I think it is. So I'm kind of curious what that's going to be. But yeah, it's interesting. I want to see. I was just listening to a podcast recently, and I want to see. I miss old action films, and I feel like action films have gotten a little too convoluted with certain things, and action films have gotten to we got to do bigger than the last film. And one of the biggest franchises that tries to do that is Fast and Furious, and they're guilty pleasures for me. I'll keep watching them, but they're getting a little more ridiculous each time. And I want to see action films kind of return to a style that we had in the 80s, and I want to see comedies take a little more chances that they used to as well. There hasn't been a whole lot of romantic comedies coming out as well. The newest one was Marry Me with Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
Which I thought was charming. But and then we had a couple of years ago we had Nobody, which was kind of like a John Wick film, which is why I liked it, with a little bit of a twist. But I would like to see some IPs, some new stuff, and new characters instead of always having to try to do a sequel or remakes. I hate when they do remakes and they change. They change. Let's make it a different style cast. Let's change the sex on this. Let's change this. Let's change that to make it different. And it's not really.
Yeah. No, I agree with what you said. I would like to see some IPs and types of movies make a return that we haven't seen in a while. So, I mean, I even look at what I'm excited about coming up this summer, and I just got to say this before we close out too. Something very interesting is happening.
By the way, we should clarify: IP is just something original.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Not IP man, like Adam said.
Yeah,
I think he's messing with me.
Yeah, of course. I'm finding it very interesting that within a 3-week span in August and September, Kevin, we see the return of Game of Thrones and the Rings of Power show premiering on Amazon. That's 2 huge franchises making their returns awful close together.
Yeah, I'm apprehensive about those.
I think I'm a little more in right now on the Game of Thrones prequel than I am on Rings of Power.
I'm curious about the Lord of the Rings one. I want to see what they do there. I really do.
Yeah. So, well, Kevin, first of all, it's great to be back doing a Culture Clash with you. We'll be back to doing this on at least every couple of week basis here soon.
Yeah.
Soon we're getting back into the groove. It was fun to do a timeline of Bruce Willis. We're going to bring back some of our other segments. We got some Hall of Fame. We're going to be doing some of our other more fun segments, and we'll be back to staying more on top of things with pop culture, and we got a lot of fun things to talk about. It's summer's back. We got the summer movie is kind of back, Kevin, finally after a couple year hiatus.
Kinda, not quite yet.
Not quite there. We're getting there. We got Thor: Love and Thunder.
I know Jurassic World Dominion's done well, and also Top Gun. So that's a start. So let's keep it coming. Let's get back theaters. I just wish the theaters around me were good theaters. I have to drive a while to get to a decent one.
Yeah, that's true. But thank you for everybody for tuned in on this impromptu show. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast and are watching on our YouTube channel, thank you so much. Of course, you can find all of our great shows on our master feed at the fpnet.podbean.com and of course on any of your major podcast distributors. Of course, visit our YouTube channel, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a share. You can contact us follow our Facebook group, Fandom Podcast Network. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram, Fandom Podcast Network, or on Twitter at FanPod Network. I'm Kyle. You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleFandom. Kevin, where can people find you?
Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. And of course, you can find me on the Fandom Podcast Network and on Facebook.
And of course, too, just for our good friend Adam O'Brien, who's been part of the chat with us today, he is the Lethal Mullet. Follow his feed as part of the family of the Fandom Podcast Network. He's been doing a lot of great classic action films of late. So, but Kevin, thank you once again for being here. Congratulations on finally being able to marry the lovely Erin Reitzel Gill, and
Yep.
we are so happy that she is officially family now.
Yeah,
legally.
and if you haven't already, check out on the feed. We did a couch potato theater for Tough Turf, James Spader film from 1985, which is one of our favorite films. Make sure you check that out.
Yeah, they are now officially truly the first couple of the Fandom Podcast Network, and it was their first podcast as a married couple. So check it out. Everybody else, until next time, as always, as we say here, respect each other and enjoy your fandom.
Specials.